The Ark. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a simple box. A tablet, plain and ordinary. But those who came into contact with it were never the same again. Within it lay a hidden force, a power capable of destroying armies, leveling cities. Some believe it carried a curse. Wherever the Ark appeared, strange and terrifying events followed. People grew ill. Some vanished. Others died. Walls crumbled. Stones cracked. And a deep, eerie silence would fall over everything. Then, one day, it vanished without a single trace. Is it hidden beneath the ancient tunnels of Qudus, in Ethiopia, or buried somewhere in America? Or perhaps, did the Knights Templar take it? Those who tried to find it always hit dead ends. Doors sealed shut, paths blocked, tunnels collapsed. Yet some believe it's still out there. And they warn, if you ever find it, be prepared. Because the Ark of the Covenant is not only a sacred relic, it is also a weapon of immense power. In this video, we'll dive into one of humanity's greatest and most enduring mysteries. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe Empower Dean and like the video to support the channel. If you're ready, let's begin. A sacred chest, said to possess incredible powers. It could bring destruction to entire armies, kill anyone who touched it unlawfully, and even serve as a direct connection between humanity and the divine. Its name appears in the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran. This box, once kept in the most sacred chamber of Solomon's temple, suddenly disappeared and has never been seen since. So, how did it all begin? According to the Torah, when the prophet Moses, climbed Mount Sinai, God spoke to him for 40 days. At the end of this divine encounter, God gave him 2 stone tablets. On them were written his commands, the 10 Commandments. But that wasn't all. God also gave detailed instructions for a sacred container to hold these tablets. It would not just be a box, but the center of his presence on earth. "Build me a sanctuary," God said, "so I may dwell among them." This marked the beginning of the Ark of the Covenant. It was to be crafted from acacia wood, about 1 by 1.5 meters in size, and entirely overlaid with pure gold, inside and out. For golden rings were attached to its corners, through which acacia poles would be inserted, never to be removed, so the Ark could be carried without ever being touched. But the most sacred part was the lid, known as the mercy seat. Also made of pure gold, it featured 2 cherubim, angelic figures, facing each other with wings outstretched, creating a divine space between them. In Jewish tradition, this space was believed to be where God's presence would appear. Following every instruction precisely, Musa had the Ark constructed. Inside it, he placed the stone tablets. Later, 2 more sacred items were added: a golden jar of manna, the miraculous food from the desert, and the staff of Aaron, which had miraculously budded. These objects symbolized God's law, his chosen leadership, and his divine provision. But the Ark wasn't just symbolic. It was feared. It was powerful. It was something more than a simple box. It was a kind of device. Not just anyone could carry the Ark. God entrusted this sacred duty to a specific tribe, the Levites. But even within this tribe, only one family was chosen for the task: the family of Kohath. Even they couldn't touch the Ark directly. Before it was moved, it had to be carefully wrapped in a special cloth. Even then, it had to be carried at a distance. No one was allowed to come too close. The Ark itself was kept far from the rest of the people, at least half a kilometer away. It was housed inside a sacred tent, a portable sanctuary made of wooden frames, covered with cloth and sheets of metal. Only one person, a chosen Levite priest, was allowed to enter this tent. Even he had to follow strict preparations. He wore a special robe made from sacred fabric, a protective metal breastplate over his chest and lower body, and around his waist he tied a rope with a small bell. The bell served one chilling purpose: those outside would listen carefully. As long as the bell rang, they knew the priest was still alive. If the bell suddenly stopped, it meant he had died, and they would have to pull his body out using the rope. That's how powerful and dangerous the Ark was. Anyone who approached it without being spiritually and physically prepared might not survive. All these intense precautions suggest one thing: the Ark may not have been just a holy relic. It might have been a real energy source, or even a highly advanced device. Ancient accounts speak of people dying suddenly near the Ark, some in a flash of light, others slowly, as if their bodies decayed from within. These symptoms sound eerily similar to radiation poisoning, or perhaps a massive electric shock. Some researchers believe the Ark was a kind of ancient machine, capable of storing and releasing energy. Its design supports this theory: a wooden core excellent for insulation, covered entirely in gold, one of the best conductors of electricity. That's exactly how modern energy storage systems work. This mysterious box traveled with the Israelites for 40 years in the desert, under the leadership of Prophet Musa, Moses. It wasn't just an object, it was a guiding force. It led them through the wilderness, decided where they should stop, when they should move, and how to face their enemies. The Ark wasn't just a spiritual compass. It was a symbol of divine power and protection. Eventually, the Israelites reached the land of Canaan, their promised homeland. Later, Prophet David, brought the Ark to Quds, Jerusalem, and began preparing a permanent home for it. But it was his son, Prophet Solomon, who completed the task. He built a magnificent temple dedicated to God, and placed the Ark in its most sacred chamber, the Holy of Holies. Only the high priest could enter this inner sanctum, and only once a year on the Day of Atonement. When he entered, he wore sacred garments, including a breastplate known as the Judgment Plate, adorned with glowing stones. According to tradition, when the priest stepped inside, a deep, vibrating sound would come from the space between the cherubim on the Ark, and the stones on his chest plate would glow, a sign that he was in direct communication with God. At that point, the Ark became more than a relic. It became a divine communication device, a guide, a protector, and a direct link to the heavens. But this power didn't last forever. In 587 BCE, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar invaded Jerusalem. Solomon's temple was destroyed. The Israelites were taken into exile. And from that day, the Ark of the Covenant was never seen again. No Babylonian records mention it. No later Jewish writings offer a clear explanation. Simply vanished. Was it stolen? Hidden away? Or did God take it back? This silence left behind more than just an unanswered question. It gave birth to one of history's greatest mysteries, an object lost in time, yet never forgotten. The Ark of the Covenant became more than a sacred artifact. It became an eternal enigma, burned into the memory of humanity. The Ark of the Covenant was never just a sacred object. It was a center of power, a guide, a shield, and at times a devastating weapon. Before finding its home in the Temple of Quds, Jerusalem, the Ark traveled with the Israelites through the desert. And its protection was not only spiritual, it was tangible. Wherever the Ark went, the people were truly protected. And in key moments, it even turned the tide of battle. One of the most dramatic events occurred at Jericho. After years of wandering, the Israelites reached the edge of the Promised Land. But before them stood Jericho, a fortified city with massive stone walls that seemed impossible to breach. Then came God's command, delivered through the Ark. For 6 days, the Israelites would march around the city in silence. And on the 7th day, they would blow their trumpets and shout. So they did. The Ark was carried at the front, and the warriors followed behind. Each day, they circled the city once. On the 7th day, they marched around it 7 times. Then the trumpets sounded. The people shouted as one. But it wasn't only the sound of human voices. It is said a strange vibration pulsed from the Ark itself. The very air trembled. Suddenly, the walls of Jericho cracked. The mighty towers crumbled. Stone by stone, the city's defenses fell in an instant. Witnesses believed this was the power of God, unleashed through the Ark. But others have a different theory. Some suggest the Ark didn't just channel divine will. It may have functioned like a technological device, capable of emitting frequencies that resonated with the walls, similar to how modern high-frequency oscillators can cause structures to collapse. This raises a powerful question. If the Ark was only a symbol of faith, how did it have such destructive physical force? Was it purely a spiritual tool? Or was it designed by God to be a functional, energy-based device? The mystery deepened years later, during a war with the Philistines. In this battle, the Israelites were defeated, and the Ark was captured by the enemy. The Philistines saw it as a trophy of war. They placed it proudly in the center of their city. But soon, strange and terrifying things began to happen. Skin diseases spread rapidly. Then came a bizarre and deadly illness. People's bodies began rotting from the inside. Their skin blistered and they aged rapidly. Death followed the Ark wherever it was taken. In panic, the Philistines moved it from city to city. But each time, the plague followed. Finally, they could take no more. They loaded the Ark onto a cart pulled by oxen and sent it back to the Israelites. The cart arrived in the village of Beth Shemesh. The people rejoiced, celebrating the return of the sacred Ark. But then, some of them made a fatal mistake. Driven by curiosity, they opened the Ark and looked inside. 70 men died instantly. These were Israelites, God's chosen people. And yet, they too were punished. It became clear, the Ark's power was not based on identity or belief alone. It was about obedience, about following the divine instructions. The Ark was then returned to the Levites, who performed the proper rituals and followed every precaution. Once again, the sacred box was treated with the awe and respect it demanded, because the Ark of the Covenant was not just a holy artifact. It held real power, a power that demanded caution, reverence, and preparation. To protect the Ark, strict rules were enforced. But one shocking event made people question everything they thought they knew. The belief that the Ark carried an unknown form of energy, radioactive, electric, or something else entirely, grew stronger. One thing became undeniable. The Ark was built with a power far beyond its time. In the Torah, a striking story adds to this mystery. Aaron's 2 sons, Nadav and Avihu, approached the Ark in a way that God had not commanded. They entered the holy space unprepared and without permission. Suddenly, 2 bright sparks shot out from the Ark, striking them through the nose. They collapsed on the spot. There were no visible wounds or burns, but their internal organs appeared to be cooked from the inside. Both died instantly. This chilling detail revealed something crucial. The Ark's power wasn't just spiritual. It was physical, real, and extremely dangerous. And its power didn't always require contact. Often, it struck from a distance. Was it a wave of energy, deadly radiation, an electromagnetic pulse? No one knows for sure. But one thing is clear. The Ark was not just a container for stone tablets. It was a powerful, carefully engineered device. And it could be deadly if misused. The secret wasn't just in possessing it, but in understanding it. For centuries, the Ark of the Covenant has remained hidden. Over time, it transformed from a relic into a symbol of loss, mystery, and the haunting possibility of its return. As generations passed, the question, "Where is it?" grew louder. It spread from priests and rabbis to archaeologists, spies, and even secret societies. One theory suggests that just before Solomon's temple was destroyed, the Ark was lowered into the tunnels beneath Quds, Jerusalem. The area beneath the Temple Mount is a labyrinth of passageways, long believed to hide forgotten truths. In 2007, a new lead emerged. A hidden passage was discovered, opening toward the Kidron Valley. It was claimed that this passage stretched all the way to Qumran, the site where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. And that brings us to a curious artifact, the Copper Scroll. Unlike the other scrolls, this one wasn't spiritual in nature. It was a treasure map. It listed 64 secret locations, each said to contain massive quantities of gold, silver, and even the Ark of the Covenant, hidden after the fall of Solomon's temple. Researcher Jim Barfield traced several of these locations. Metal detectors gave off strange signals. The tunnel network became clearer, but every attempt to dig deeper was blocked. Entrances were sealed with concrete. Research was suddenly halted. Yet, beneath the silence, the signals kept whispering that the Ark might still be hidden somewhere below. But not everyone believes it remains in Jerusalem. Another theory claims the Ark was removed centuries ago by one of the most mysterious groups in history, the Knights Templar. During the Crusades, the Templars arrived in Quds and dug for years beneath the Temple Mount. Then, without warning, they returned to Europe, richer and more knowledgeable than ever before. According to legend, they had found the Ark and smuggled it to France, then Scotland, and possibly even to America. Some believe it now lies hidden beneath Oak Island, in a secret chamber yet to be found. Another powerful claim points to Ethiopia. Ancient texts say that Solomon's son, born from the Queen of Sheba, took the true Ark from Jerusalem, left behind a replica, and carried the original to Ethiopia. To this day, it is said that in a remote monastery near Lake Tana, the Ark of the Covenant still rests, guarded and untouched. Guarded by a single monk, a mysterious box is said to lie in a remote Ethiopian monastery. No one else is allowed to see it. This monk lives in complete isolation, dedicating his life to watching over the box. He will never leave its side. Across Ethiopia, nearly every church holds a symbolic replica of the Ark of the Covenant. To the people, this is not a legend. It is an absolute truth. But among all the theories about the Ark's final resting place, one of the most surprising comes from Japan. Every year, during sacred Shinto rituals held atop Mount Tsurugi, a golden box is carried in ceremony. According to tradition, this box holds the spirit and secret of God. What's fascinating is the number of striking similarities between Japanese mythology and the texts of the Torah. Some researchers believe these connections suggest the Ark may have once journeyed to faraway lands, perhaps even Japan. The theory gained so much traction that, in the 1930s, Japanese archaeologists conducted extensive excavations on Mount Tsurugi. But in the end, they found nothing. Eventually, the mountain was declared a national park, and all digging was permanently banned. Still, the questions have never gone away. Yet for many, the Ark never left Jerusalem. They believe it still lies buried beneath the ruins of Solomon's temple, possibly hidden beneath the Dome of the Rock. In 1981, Israel's chief Rabbi Yehuda Getz began a secret excavation hoping to prove this theory. But during the dig, strange sounds were heard underground. Muslim guards at the temple noticed. Tensions rose. Police intervened, and the dig was abruptly halted. The tunnel was sealed. Years later, Getz revealed, "We were only a few meters away. The Ark was there, but we couldn't finish." All these stories, legends, and clues point to one truth. The Ark of the Covenant is not merely a relic of the past. It is also a powerful symbol of the future. In Jewish tradition, its return will signal the building of the Third Temple and the return of God's presence to earth, a moment seen as the beginning of the end times. In Christian belief, this moment is linked to the second coming of the Messiah. And in Islamic tradition, the Ark is said to reappear with the arrival of the Mahdi, heralding the restoration of divine order. So the Ark of the Covenant isn't just a story from the past. It's a living mystery tied to humanity's destiny. To some, its discovery is a beacon of hope. To others, it's a threat of unimaginable power. Some see it as the restoration of humanity's bond with God. Others fear it holds the key to humanity's destruction. But maybe the most important question isn't where the Ark is, but what it truly represents. A symbol of justice, mercy, loyalty, and faith. The Ark of the Covenant doesn't just carry ancient tablets or golden artifacts. It carries the weight of an ancient promise, a covenant between humanity and the divine. We've reached the end of another journey. Thank you for watching. Until next time, see you in the next video.